What's up, guys, and welcome back to our bourbon bracket single barrel edition, where today we have 1792 single barrel versus the Baker's 7 out of the Jim Beam distillery. We're going to see who can move on to the final four. As you can see on the bracket behind me, we already have two contenders there. We have two more to go this week, but as you know, we do this blind, so let's get Marissa down here to pour these up so I don't know what I'm sipping on. Let's do this.
Hey, I'm back. All right, what do we got today? All right, guys, see ya.
All right, y'all, so let's get these going. So Baker's 7, this is obviously coming out of Jim Beam. What is this, 107 proof versus our single barrel over here, which is 98.6 proof. So 7 or 8 proof difference there, not too bad. This obviously coming out of Barton Distillery. This one coming out of Jim Beam, like I already said. This is actually aged 8 years and 8 months, which is interesting to me because it's called Baker's 7 years. But obviously it says right on here as well, 7 years minimum. This one I believe is non-age stated. This one is a high rye. This one's high rye? Yes, and then this one is like a 13% rye, I believe is what it is. So these might actually be a little bit harder to tell apart. 1792 small batch is one of my favorite go-to daily sippers, but I do know when I get up into those higher proof of the 1792s, I actually don't like them as much. I don't think that they bring too much more to the table. So let's see what this single barrel can do. Let's see if this one's Baker's 7 or if this one's the 1792. Everybody knows before we get started, time for the traditional sip. So I'm expecting, the first thing that I'm looking for myself, Jim Beam always has that nuttiness aroma and that nuttiness flavor. I don't know if that's going to hold true when it comes to the Baker's side of things, but that's what I'm kind of expecting. 1792 usually has a pretty good kick to it, but it actually makes it taste a little bit better if you ask me. So right off the bat, I can usually tell. I have no clue with this one, A or B. This one, not that much of a kick, so it makes me want to believe it's the Baker's 7 for 107 proof. It actually sips pretty well, but also at a 98 or a 99 proof, doesn't sip too bad either. So let's see. Ooh, that one tastes like the Jim Beam. I feel like it has that nuttiness aroma that I'm looking for compared to this one. Tastes a little bit smoother. If that's 107 proof, that's very impressive. This one does have a little bit more of a kick to it. It's close though. They both kind of have the same ethanol as far as on the nose and everything like that. Color-wise, they actually, maybe a little bit darker for A, which, I don't know, with the bottles, the way the bottles are set up, you have this black in the front, so it kind of makes it look darker. This one's going to be tough. This one might be going into this, I thought that these two were going to be the toughest to tell apart. Everything else, kind of the proof and everything settled down. So comparing a 90 proof to a 120 proof, you can kind of figure out what's what. This one though, very subtle nuttiness, I believe on A. And I don't know if I'm just making that up in my mind because that's what I want it to believe it is, but ooh, that is really good. A is really good. B is also very good. These are actually both very good bourbons. I'm actually surprised because, like I said, the 1792 usually puts out something when they get into the, what other 17? I have the Bottled and Bond. Not my favorite. When they put it at that 100 proof, it kind of, too much ethanol for me with not enough extra flavor that gets added compared to the small batch. Again, they're not that much off. Actually, is the small batch, what is the small batch? It's 98, isn't it? 93.7. So not too much of a difference at all. What we have here is a very close competition, if you ask me. Again, I still think this is the Jim Beam. I think this is the 1792. We're really going to get into it here. One last sip of each of these, and then we're going to call it. This one has that sweetness, that nuttiness. It's really going to be hard to pick between the two of these, but we got to do it. Let's try one more time. Very solid bourbon. Especially if that's a 107 proof, that sips very well. But again, it has that nuttiness, that sweetness, which I'm not the biggest fan of Jim Beam if you don't already know that. Something about that flavor profile that I don't love. The Booker's I absolutely love. It's at the top of my one of the top of my list right now. The Baker's is very solid if that's what that is. It tastes like it has to be that one, just because if this is a high rye, this B definitely gives it a high rye flavor profile. And that's just absolutely, it's fantastic. You can't really beat that. Very close. This is pretty much a matter of preference at this point. If you want 107 proof, you're not going to go wrong with this. If you want something that's a little bit less than that with more of a rye spice rather than a sweetness kick, you can't go wrong with this 1792. My preference, we're going to give it to B here. This is the 1792 if I had to guess. Again, there's no other way that it can be if you ask me, and that's what we've got here. We've got 1792 and we've got the Bakers. It's just that sweetness, that nuttiness aroma is very easy to tell, which allows you to really bring out this flavor profile as well in the 1792, because you just know what you're looking for now. You know you're looking for the high rye mash bill. This sips a lot lighter than most of their high proof stuff. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of their bottled and bond, and I absolutely love their small batch. So this is a perfect like in-betweener, where this Baker's over here, very good bourbon. I would not knock this. I think if this contended against almost any other one in our Elite 8, it probably would have won. Maybe not the Four Roses, just because you guys know how much I love the Four Roses. But as far as like even the Elijah Craig 18, I'm very interested to see how that does next against the New Riff. So that's how we're going to call it. B's going to be our winner. We're going to give it to 1792, and that's where we're going to leave it on today. We got that. Cheers. So make sure you check out the video on Thursday. We're going to have our last of our Elite 8 pairing, which is the Elijah Craig versus the New Riff, and that's going to let us know who moves on to play the Russell's Reserve. But for now, we have the 1792 moving on against Four Roses. Also, make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. We give away prizes throughout this whole March Madness process. We're going to pick a bunch of winners at the end of March. All you got to do is go on and guess who you think is going to win each matchup. If you guess correctly, you're going to be entered in that drawing. So there we leave it, 1792, impressing the world if you ask me. Baker's 7 falling just short, and that's where we're going to leave it. Wash your hands, guys. Cheers.